We'll start with the lowest hanging fruit, which relates to the decision that came last night from Le'Veon Bell, reportedly choosing between the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Dolphins, and then he narrowed it to the Chiefs and the Dolphins, and frankly, in all due respect to the Dolphins, if you're going to narrow it to those two teams, you're going to take the Chiefs. You're gonna ride with the champions. You're gonna go with the opportunity to play deep into January, pump up your resume, and hit the market next year because it's a one-year deal, as everyone expected it to be. That allows him to become a free agent after the season, and this is a win-win, right? If Bell still has it, Peter, this is a win-win for him and for a team that could use a compliment to rookie Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Well, the reason why this pairing works so well is that Andy Reid wants to throw the ball to the running backs out of the backfield. He wants to design plays for these great wheel routes. You saw what he did with Kareem Hunt right away in 2017 in New England. He designed a play with Kareem Hunt on Dante Hightower, and it went for 70-plus yards and a touchdown. That is what Andy Reid loves to do. He loves to not only have his receivers to be threats in the intermediate part of the field, but also his running backs. That's where I think that Le'Veon Bell was swayed, and that's why the Chiefs really wanted him. I'm sure the money is not that much for Kansas City. And, I also think everybody was really excited about Clyde Edwards-Helaire at the beginning of the year, and rightfully so. He's an excellent player, and I think he's going to have a great career. But when you focus so much on one player and one running back, and yeah, they have other backs in their stable, but Le'Veon Bell is going to give them the opportunity to have we think, but we don't know, a premier back out of the backfield. And Mike, the reason why we don't know is that Le'Veon Bell sat out 2018. He was mediocre the last year and a third with the Jets. So, think about it, Mike. It's been 3 years since Le'Veon Bell has been great. So, is he still great? He'll tell you he is. The Chiefs will tell you we think he is. But we simply do not know. We just don't know.
Yeah, and you look at how it tails off on the chart from the Football Perspective Twitter account. The gold dots with the black rim are his performances with the Steelers, and then the cluster at the right where it all drops off, that's what happened with the Jets. Now, last year he still had a decent season by running back standards, 1,200-plus yards from scrimmage, but it wasn't Le'Veon Bell standards. It wasn't $13.5 million a year with the first 2 years and $27 million guaranteed. Let me spin back to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, because when they drafted him, the thought was this year it would be Damian Williams and Clyde Edwards-Helaire sharing the load. That's what Brett Veach, the GM of the team, told me just days after the draft. This isn't we're making Clyde Edwards-Helaire the number one guy and Damian just gets pushed aside. Damian Williams played really well in the Super Bowl and helped contribute significantly to the victory. But then Williams opts out over the pandemic, and we all just kind of say, oh, well, it's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Well, you know what? They made a play for Adrian Peterson, which tells you they've been thinking about this for a while. And last year they made a play for Le'Veon Bell when the Jets were talking to teams about trading him, and Bell said so. It was the Packers. It was the Chiefs. It was the Texans. It was the Steelers. And there was one more that I keep forgetting, but there were teams that were interested in him last year. He just wasn't interested in revising the contract that paid him $27 million fully guaranteed. And you look at Edwards-Helaire's performance. He blew us away with 138 yards rushing in week one. Since then, 70 total yards from scrimmage against the Chargers, 64 yards rushing against the Ravens. He added 70 receiving, so that had him at 134 from scrimmage. He had 91 yards from scrimmage in the win over the Patriots, and then most recently, 40 yards rushing, 40 yards receiving. So he has not been tearing it up the way that maybe we thought he was going to right out of the gates, and they could use the help. And a great point Chris made yesterday when we were talking about what Le'Veon Bell can do. If you put him in the backfield, and you run the ball and run the ball and run the ball, that is going to get the defense to react. And maybe they sneak another linebacker on the field to stop him as a runner. Well, once you get them in that matchup, you split him to the slot and you let him go 70 yards against that linebacker for a touchdown. And that's where Le'Veon Bell becomes that mismatch. If you react to what he can do as a running back, he'll kill you as a receiver.
Yeah, and I think, look, no one's criticizing Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's on pace for a, almost 1,100-yard rushing season. That's good. But I think, I remember when I left Kansas City camp in August, I just told everybody, take Clyde Edwards-Helaire, as your running back. And again, look, if you took him over Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley, you're a genius. but in general, I really did think, especially in the running game, he was going to have given the Chiefs more, and especially after the first game of the season. But look, this is classic Andy Reid. You know what he does? He basically overloads his stable because he understands that in week 11, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to get a turf toe or a strained calf or something like that. Very, very rarely do your finely tuned athletes like Edwards-Helaire is, very rarely do they go through a 16-game regular season without something happening to make them less than 100%. And look, the one thing that Le'Veon Bell has done in the last year and a half is pretty much conserve himself. He's not had a heavy workload. So to me, this is absolutely what Andy Reid does every single year. It's like a Reid-Belichick move. Let's take an undervalued penny stock and let's let him grow, in our portfolio. And that's what I think Le'Veon Bell is going to do.
And they tried that last year with LaShawn McCoy when he fell into the Chiefs' lap. He was cut Labor Day weekend by the Bills. Somewhat surprisingly, McCoy really didn't do all that much, and by the time we got to the end of the season, he wasn't even active for some of the most important postseason games. So we'll see what Le'Veon Bell has. The Chiefs will find out what Le'Veon Bell has, but what he definitely has is a team that wants him, and it was never really all that clear that the Jets wanted him. Mike Maccagnan did. He paid too much. Adam Gase knew he paid too much. Maccagnan, frankly, got grifted by someone in Bell's camp that made Maccagnan believe the Ravens were at the table for the same amount, and they never were. And it never got that relationship off to a good start. So no longer a Jet, now a Chief. November 1, he gets to play the Jets, who handed Le'Veon Bell to the open market, and he lands in Kansas City.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.